how you can invest with not a lot of money by house hacking. Hey, I'm Ariane, and if you're new to this channel, I upload weekly videos on money, investing, and real estate to help awesome people like you reach financial freedom ASAP. So today we're going to talk about how can you invest with a low amount of money by house hacking so you can take advantage of this as well. And I'll share our personal experience doing these strategies along the way, so you'll want to listen in for those gold nuggets. Okay, house hacking is really just a fun way to say that you're planning to make money from the house you live in. And you can do this with a low amount of money because in the US and probably other countries, you can buy a house with a low down payment. So here in the US, it's 0 to 3.5% down payment. This is the range you can put down. And usually, when you put in an offer to buy a property, you can have the seller pay for some or all of your closing costs. So your true out of pocket usually can be as low as 0 to 3.5%. And with the current low interest rates, it's a great deal. There's three main ways to house hack. So first, you can do a live-in flip. Two, you can buy a rental house every year by using your owner occupied loan. And number three, you can reinvest your home equity. So we'll go deeper into those three things. First, we'll talk about the live-in flip, right? And this is the first thing we actually did. So we bought a fixer-upper house, so you can do that. And you don't really want it to be too much of a fixer-upper, right? Like you don't want to like have to, remove a whole floor or like bust out so many walls because that can be really expensive. Um, what you also don't want it to be too much of a fixer-upper because it has to be financeable with a bank loan, right? Because we're trying to do 0 to 3.5% down payment. Now there are some renovation loans where you can do like bigger projects like the VA renovation loan, FHA 203K, and homestyle renovation loans. But sometimes you might not be as competitive when buying a property because usually the sellers and the agents know that those loans can be a little bit harder to get through closing or has a longer time frame to close. So whenever you can just use the normal owner occupied loan, then that's going to be better for you as far as getting a better deal on a house. So what you want to do is you want to look for a house that maybe is a little dated and maybe it looks like something from the 70s or 80s, but the bones are good, right? Like one of the main things we look for when we're buying a owner occupied house is the big ticket items, right? You want the roof to be within 10 years old, so that you don't need to replace a roof all that soon. And then you also want ideally the AC to be about 5 years old or less. So roof 10 years old or less, AC 5 years old or less, and that'll help you not have to spend the big ticket expenses up front when you buy the house. So those are some main things. And as you buy something, maybe it's dated, you can even put in some sweat equity. Like we did that back in the day. We actually painted our own kitchen cabinets and put up a backsplash, and that gave us some sweat equity. And it also helped us later on as we did more renovations because it helped us know how to do certain things right, and it helped us value that project even more. The other thing to think about when you're doing a live-in flip is when you sell a property, let's say you're planning on living there for 2 years and then selling it, then it's going to cost you about 10% of the sale price to pay for all of the closing costs. That includes real estate commissions, your personal closing costs, the buyer's assistance, because usually they'll ask you for closing costs on their end. So that's about 10%. So you want to factor that in. And the way we typically look at it is we figure out what we could sell the house for when it's fixed up, and we call that the after repair value or the ARV. And we multiply that ARV by 70 to 80%. Obviously, the lower you can buy it, the better, but we're okay buying up to 80% when we're living in it, right? So we would have gotten a 20% discount. Now, let's say the ARV is $300,000 and it's going to need $30,000 in updates to put in a new kitchen, bathroom, flooring, paint, and other miscellaneous stuff. So the most we would want to offer is 80% of 300K minus the repairs. So 300K times 0.8 minus 30K is $210,000. So that's the maximum offer we can pay for this house that we're trying to do a house hack and do a live-in flip, right? So assuming the house values don't go up, you should still make a $30,000 profit in 2 years when you sell. And if you buy it cheaper, then you'd actually make more money. And that also doesn't take into account any appreciation or the value of real estate going up. Let's say the prices go up 2.5% each year for the next 2 years, then the 300K ARV today would actually become 315K ARV in 2 years, and that would give you a $45,000 profit in 2 years, right? So that's amazing. That's a big chunk of money you can use to invest somewhere else. Not to mention that you were paying your mortgage instead of rent because you're living in the house. Another main thing to remember is in the US, we have a Section 121 exclusion, which means that if you live in a house as your primary residence for 2 out of the last 5 years, if you sell that house and make a profit, you could not pay taxes on the profit. And that there's a limit on that. You could profit up to $250,000 if you're single, or $500,000 if you're married filing jointly. So that's amazing. You could, like that $45,000 example we did of the profit, then that's tax free. There's not a lot of things that's tax free in the world. So you want to take advantage of this when you can. So that's the first one. And we actually did this. Our very first house we bought for $55,000. It was a little townhouse. We put about $25,000, $30,000 in it. We sold it for a profit of between $30,000 and $40,000. So that helped us a lot in our early investing stages. Now, number 2 way to house hack is to buy a new rental house every year and move out every year. And there's kind of 2 ways to do that. You can either buy a normal house and rent out the rooms or other parts of the house. Like, let's say you buy a 4-bedroom house, so you rent out the other 3 bedrooms to other people. Or you can rent out your garage. That's actually what we do with our house now. We rent out our garage for a fee. And then you could also rent out your parking space. We have a friend down in South Florida and they rent out their parking space. So that's awesome, right? You can make, not only are you living in the house, you can make extra money while you're living there, and it can pay for your mortgage. The other way is to buy a 2 to 4 unit property. So a duplex, triplex, or fourplex. And with the owner-occupied loan, you can actually still buy that for 0 to 3.5% down, depending on the loan you're using. And you can rent out the other units. So you can live, if you buy a fourplex, you can live in 1 unit and rent out the other 3. Another way to do this is to buy a house with a mother-in-law suite or a carriage house. I know a few friends who have something like that where they live in the main house and they rent out the mother-in-law suite either through short-term rentals as an Airbnb or just have a normal long-term renter in there. So those are great ways to house hack. And the great thing about owner-occupied loans is you can actually buy one owner-occupied house per year with an owner-occupied loan. So let's say you buy 4 plexes, right? And this year you buy a 4-plex. Next year you buy another 4-plex. So in 2 years, with 0 to 3.5% down for each one, you have 8 rental units. That's awesome, right? And it's a fast way to speed up your rental portfolio, and it's also relatively cheap because you're only having to come up with 0 to 3.5% of the purchase price. And you can do that. Usually you can get up to 10 conventional loans per person. So, and you can even do it where you just take a loan in one person's name. So if you're a couple, you could get 10 each, potentially. Okay, So now we're going to talk about the third way to house hack, which is to reinvest your home equity. So maybe you don't want to move out of your house every 1 to 2 years, right? That sounds like a lot of work. And it was, we did it for a few years and we kind of still do it now. Um, One way you can make money off your house is by tapping into your home equity. And some of you are saying, red flag, red flag. Wait, I was told never to do that. I was supposed to never use my home equity. In fact, I was taught to pay off my house. And yes, you don't want to tap into your home equity if you're going to use it for frivolous spending like buying a brand new boat or a brand new car or something else that you're not going to be able to make money off of. But if you're going to use it for investing and you're going to use that to get you a good return, then that could actually be a good reason for you to tap into your home equity. So it usually goes like this, and we did this for the current house I'm living in right now, the house you see. You can get usually around 80% of your home's appraised value as a line of credit. So if you own your home outright, you can put an 80% home equity line of credit on it. Or if you have a mortgage, maybe your mortgage is at 60%, you can still put the extra 20% as a home equity line of credit. So an example here is if you can borrow maybe at a 3% interest rate, that's around where our home equity line of credit is right now, and you find an investment where you can make double that, let's say 6% or even more, then that would be a great investment. On the 6% example, you're making an extra 3% off the arbitrage, right? So you're not actually paying for your home equity line of credit, right? It's the 6% investment that's paying for it. You're putting the 3% in there and you pocket an extra 3%. And a lot of you probably have access to investments that can get you more than 6%. So just imagine what you can do. You can tap into that lazy equity in your home and make it work for you. And that's exactly what we do with our home equity line of credit. So we have an 80% line of credit on our home, and we use that to buy new properties. We combine it with the BRRRR strategy to buy properties. We also use it to invest in apartment deals, and every now and then we'll use it for short-term lending and lend it out to some other business owner, and we get a good return. So those are some ways you can use your home equity line of credit. And just remember, you're using this for investments that get you a return that's higher than what you're paying the home equity line of credit for. So you don't want to use this for frivolous spending. Remember, you do want to be careful with your home equity line of credit because it's your home, that's your savings. And like I mentioned earlier, you can use this with other strategies, just like we did ours, and like the BRRRR method, and all of those other things. So my next video is going to be about the best way to buy more rentals with the least amount of money, and that is what's called the BRRRR strategy. You can use a HELOC in combination with that strategy, and it could be very powerful. So be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be the first to see the new videos about money, investing, and real estate to help you achieve financial freedom. And here's our quote for the day. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. All right, guys, I'll see you next time.